Hello, BSC6003 students. Checking in with you. Obviously, we're not having a class today because of the college being closed for adjustment time. It's very likely that starting next week we will continue with online studies. Because your course is hybrid, I'm allowed to provide you with an hour and a half worth work for this week, and then next week we'll resume full activities, but obviously not in class. Okay, now keep in mind that the key here is that we keep pressing forward with our work, and that we avoid a pile up at the end of the term. That's the main thing. I want to try to avoid that as much as we can. Okay, you should already have notification of a Zoom chat for next week during our normal class hour. Okay, so we want to have you check in on that. That will serve as your attendance score, although I will also send out quizzes for self-assessment. All right. So today my goal is simply to bring you up to speed on that. Be prepared for online activities. Obviously, common sense, although we're taking a bit of a slower approach this week, beginning next week, it's obviously beneficial if we press on aggressively with finishing up our business cases. For those students who may not have been able to gather all the data they need for their business cases because of COVID-19, please send me an email and we'll try to come up with some kind of a solution. For those who have data, maybe not all of it, but most of it, and we need to use estimates for the rest of it, that's okay. Also send me an email, but I'm sure that given the circumstances that we're facing, that shouldn't be a major problem for us either. So, but we can also bring up these issues in the Zoom chat in our regular time next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Okay? So, stay positive and keep chipping away. In the meantime, I just want to reiterate the issues that we need to cover off in our business case, just to help us get refocused, given all the upheaval and kerfuffle related to responding to COVID problem that we're having now. Okay, so let's look a little bit at some of the things that I want to make sure that we continue to cover off. All right, you recall from our first lecture 1, where I talked about some of the things that need to be addressed. They're covered off in our business cases, and just to help us get refocused, I want to just cover off some of those issues again. Okay, so let's look at some of these. Okay, we know that why we're doing our business case. Okay, we know that most organizations don't really have a good grasp of what has to be done for energy management, and yet they're consuming significant resources on energy. So what our business cases are about is showing ways forward for reducing costs and achieving other benefits related to the business case. All right, we know the key concepts we're addressing in our business cases are concepts of scarcity, opportunity costs, effectiveness, and efficiency in achieving organizational objectives. So one of the things that you want to make sure you're clear with your business case is that you clearly link your business case to the organizational objectives of whatever company or organization you're working with. That should be getting written up very quickly. It should be very concise. It should show how the business case relates to achieving organizational objectives. That should be certainly a section at the very front end of your business case. Okay, so understand the challenge that the business is facing and relate your business case to that challenge. And obviously, in most cases, the key challenge will be cost savings, right? And energy cost savings. But there are other benefits that can be achieved that we talked about already. That long list of things that were in last week's lecture notes, okay, of benefits. There's issues of brand, there's issues of retaining employees, particularly young, innovative employees who want to work with green companies, and so on. All those factors that we've adjusted as benefits. That stuff should be discussed fairly upfront, okay? But then the business case goes on to what change is desired. What are you suggesting? We talked about there needing to be 3 models or 3 options in your business case: a low-hanging fruit option, a middle-of-the-road option, and a high-end option. In each case, what are the reasons for the change? What benefits would the change result in? And what specific actions are we going to take in terms of achieving some of the objectives that the company wants to achieve that we discussed just in the past slide? Okay. And then, of course, you need to collect your data on each of those three options. But obviously, that's compared with your baseline data. You've established your baseline data. What is the current energy use? Then your three options will be comparing those options as projections to your baseline scenario. And then we'll be coming up with recommendations as to whether low-hanging fruit is the only option that's reasonable and viable, or is the middle-of-the-road option reasonable and viable, or is the full Monty option reasonable and viable. Okay. Then the next thing we want to do, once we've done that, we've laid out the dollars and cents, and we've provided some recommendations for the options that we think are viable. And how do we determine that? If option 1 has a positive NPV, then it's viable. If option 2 has a positive NVP, then it's viable. If option 3 has a positive NPV, then it's viable. But viability from a purely economic point may not be the best, may not achieve automatic acceptance by your client. So obviously, we need to discuss all three of the options, and you need to propose those options that you think that the company is most ready for. If your client decides that all three options they're ready for, then so be it. But at the end of the day, you need to provide the best options advice that you can provide for the company that you have before you. Is it a company that's got good cash flow? Is it a company that maybe is just squeezing by? All these factors become important, okay? And then somewhere along the lines, once you provide your recommendations on your various options, if you find an option that has a negative NPV, obviously you're going to tell your client that this option is probably a bridge too far at this point, whereas options 1 and options 2 could be considered. Then you would go on and explain how those options should best be implemented, and whatever risks and risk mitigation strategies you have with respect to the implementation of those options. Because as we've discussed in the past, sometimes companies will be nervous about operations interruptions, insecurity of power sources at critical times, and so on. So you need to manage those risk management expectations for your client, all right? So in each case, you're providing, in every instance, you're providing the strategic case. How does it relate to the organizational objectives of the company? Okay, how does the economic case relate to the three options? So are they viable options? Do they have positive NPVs and IRRs and so on? Right. And the commercial case, how is this going to be a benefit to the company, not only in terms of saving power, but other aspects of the commercial case for the company, improving the company's brand, whatever factors you think is appropriate to your client, okay? The financial case, the proposed financial investment is affordable. You would have concluded that by the IRR and the NPV, or a phased implementation of the measures so that the company's cash flow is not exhausted by your proposal in year 1. If you look at your company and you say the company can't afford that kind of upfront investment, but they still want to do the middle level option that you provided, and it's fairly costly for a small company. Say it's investing $100,000 over the next period of time to achieve all the benefits of the business case. Well, you might have to phase that. You might have to phase that over 3, 4, 5 years, if that's the case, for the company to be able to manage it in its cash flow. Okay, and then the management case, what type of input, what type of activities are required for all people that would be involved, and how will risks associated with the proposal be managed, okay? Those factors all need to be taken into account, all right? Now, the major sections that you need to look at are obviously the following types of sections we talked about very early in the course. Background information, project statement, why am I here? What are we doing? Okay, where is the current status of the company with respect to energy management? Objectives. How are you trying this energy management case to your company's objectives? Okay, we've talked about that several times. The current situation. Okay, That's your baseline. Where are we on power? What's likely to happen if we do nothing to improve energy management going out 10, 15 years? Build your case as to what the current situation is and why the current situation is not optimal for the company going forward. All right. Recommended solutions. Those are your 3 options. Okay. Success criteria and measures. Those are your cost-benefit analysis, right? Your NPVs and your IRRs. Support required to implement. Who needs to be involved, and so on. Okay. Risk and mitigation. What are we going to do to make sure that nothing goes wrong with the implementation of our business case? Then next steps and timelines. What happens next? Ask the client what happens next. As you can see from the above business case, all 3 options are viable. However, it's likely, given the current status of the company, that maybe option 3 is a bridge too far, but option 1 and option 2 can be fully considered. At some later date, if 1 and 2 are implemented, option 3 can be considered. This kind of language in terms of next steps. Okay. And if you follow those basic steps through your business case, you should be fine. As I've said before, the write-up is an important ingredient. That's why I want you to use Grammarly at Premium. Write clearly, write succinctly. Do not write in financial speak or in technical speak, but rather write in financial speak. Avoid over-technical language of energy management. Talk in language that the owner or the business manager can understand. What do they understand? They understand things in financial terms. They understand things in operational terms. They understand things in risk mitigation terms. Okay, those are the types of languages that you need to use to lay out your business case. Now, obviously, the major aspect of this, okay, is gathering your data, building your 3 options scenarios, and taking those out into the future as estimates. We talked about costs, we talked about benefits, we talked about how to lay them out in a spreadsheet. You have guidance on calculating IRR and NPV, and so on. And so the key is just to roll forward with that, okay? So as we get further along, obviously I'm going to be running Zoom chat sessions pretty much every week, where we would normally have our class, to take questions from you as to how things are going. Are you having problem reaching estimates, and so on. We'll talk about that, okay? But the main thing is let's just get the business cases moving, and let's wrap them up. Let's learn from the experience, so that even though we know that our business cases this time are relatively small cases, we don't have a lot of time and resources, but we're going through the steps. We're understanding how to do it. We're understanding how to interpret these things, so that later on when you get out into the marketplace, you can understand if you see a business case, or if you're asked to participate in the development of the business case, you know what's going on. You know what to look for in terms of strengths and weaknesses of business cases. That's my objective. My second major objective, of course, is getting you through the course so you can graduate. That's the bottom line, all right? So let's just keep chunking away. So next week, we'll do the Zoom chat. I'll probably send another video on top of that. You can email me if you have specific questions as you go along. If you can't by next week, and when we have a Zoom chat, if you can't solve any major problems, be sure to table them with me, and we'll try to plan a way forward, okay, a way around any problem or obstruction that we're having getting to the completion of our business case. Remember, when you're doing estimates in your business case, I want you to do reasonable estimates. I'm not going to be micromanaging your numbers down to the dollar, okay? I want to see you go through the process, think through the logic of constructing a business case, write it up well, do your best on the cost-benefit analysis, come up with some solid recommendations, and then let's move forward, all right? So on that score, let's have a chat next week, and I'm looking forward to seeing what progress you're making, okay? And please do keep going, even though I'm only allowed to offer you an hour and a half's worth of work this week because of the shutdown. Because our course is hybrid, I am able to keep things going, but next week we'll be back into a full mode, okay? And let's press on aggressively. Talk to you again next week, and best, and just, like I say, chip away, obey the instructions of the executive at the college, listen to the public health directives from the government, and I'm sure we're all going to come through this. I just want you to finish so I can grade your papers and we can move on. All right? Take care for now. Bye-bye now.